That picture, isn't it? Is that Mecca?
No, that's
Where?
that was a different one. Yes.
Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please stand to receive the platform party led by His Excellency the Saudi Ambassador, Dr. Al-Ghazali, and accompanied by our principal guest, Lord David Owen. Your Excellencies, my Lord, distinguished guests, the academic members of the King's Fahad Academy have now taken their places, and the graduating students will now take their places. be upstanding for the playing of the national anthem. Please be seated. Majid Mukram and Majid Al-Adri will recite from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ألم تر أن الله أنزل من السماء ماء فأخرجنا به ثمرات مختلفا ألوانها ومن الجبال جدد بيض وحمر مختلف ألوانها وغرابيب سود ومن الناس والدواب والأنعام مختلف ألوانه كذلك إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء إن الله عزيز غفور إن الذين يتلون كتاب الله وأقاموا الصلاة وأنفقوا مما رزقناهم سرا وعلانية يرجون تجارة لن تبور ليوفيهم أجورهم ويزيدهم من فضله إنه غفور شكور صدق الله العظيم.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Seest thou not that Allah sends down rain from the sky? With it, we then bring out produce of various colors. And in the mountains are tracts, white and red, of various shades of color, and black, intense in hue. And so, amongst men and crawling creatures and cattle, are they of various colors. Those truly fear Allah among His servants who have knowledge, for Allah is exalted in mind, oft forgiving. Those who rehearse the book of Allah establish regular prayer, and send in charity out of what we have provided for them, secretly and openly. Hope for a commerce that will never fail. For He will pay them their meed, nay, He will give them even more out of His bounty. For He is oft forgiving, most ready to appreciate service.
I now call upon Dr. Istisam Al-Dassan, High Mistress of the Academy.
بسم الله والحمد لله القائل يا أيها الناس إن خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم غفير. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم الأمين القائل إن الله لا ينظر إلى صوركم وأموالكم بل ينظر إلى أفعالكم. أصحاب المعالي، أصحاب السعادة، أيها الحفل الكريم، باسم أسرة أكاديمية الملك فهد يسعدني أن أحييكم وأرحب بكم في حفل تخريج الدفعة الرابعة من طلاب وطالبات هذه الأكاديمية التي حققت بعون الله تعالى وفضله ثم بفضل خادم الحرمين الشريفين مؤسسها وراعيها ورائد التعليم في المملكة العربية السعودية، حققت الكثير من الإنجازات المشرفة في فترة وجيزة من الزمن هي عمر هذه الأكاديمية. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all members of the King Fahad Academy, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to our 4th graduation ceremony. We are pleased that the distinguished and highly respected statesman, Lord Owen, has accepted the Academy's invitation to share with us these very happy moments and this very happy occasion. And our graduates are happy and delighted and honored that he will address them on this very important day in their life, a day when they come back to the Academy to celebrate the successful completion of their educational journey in this young institution, which we all love and which our staff proudly serve and are totally committed to do their best to take it from strength to strength. King Fahad Academy was opened in September 1985. It carries with great pride the name of its founder, the custodian of the two holy places, King Fahad ibn Abdul Aziz, without whose kind encouragement and continuous support and great financial help, no achievement and no progress could have been made and no expansion would have been possible. The Academy is a young, dynamic and vibrant being containing, as it does, a multitude of nationalities and a diversity of cultures and backgrounds. In his recent thoughtful and constructive speech in Oxford, His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales said, "Islam and Christianity share a common monotheistic vision, a belief in one divine God, and we share many key values in common." In King Fahad Academy, our staff, representing 29 nationalities and comprising of both Muslims and Christians, seek to accentuate these common values. Our students coming from 40 nationalities are encouraged to develop, as His Royal Highness Prince Charles also said, trust, mutual respect and tolerance. And we are proud that in this young institution a degree of harmony and understanding has been reached, ahead of that achieved in more homogeneous schools of longer tradition. As a Saudi institution, the Academy puts great emphasis on the teaching of Islam and seeks to preserve our language, our literature, our culture, and our Islamic tradition. Simultaneously, being based in London, a center of Western culture, the Academy seeks to employ that which is best in the language, literature, culture, science, and technology of Europe. We hope that the education and the experience our graduates had in this academy has enhanced their awareness of the interdependence of the world, and that they now realize that each of us and each individual can make a wholesome impact on this world by participating in the noble efforts to bring peace to the world and promote love, tolerance, understanding, and mutual respect. We'd like at this point to thank the custodian of the two holy places and express to him our deepest gratitude. We'd also like to thank His Excellency Dr. Ghazi Al-Qusaybi, Chairman of our Board of Trustees, and all members of our board for their most appreciated help and their most appreciated support and their most appreciated encouragement, which we dearly appreciate and which we need and will always require. Lord Owen, distinguished guests, once more we say أهلا ومرحبا بكم في أكاديمية الملك فهد. Welcome to the King Fahad Academy. And on behalf of all of us here, I would like to express our congratulations to our graduates tonight and wish them the very best in the future.
Dr. Al-Basabi will now introduce our principal guest of honor.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my sons and daughters, the graduating class. I think the last thing you need today is a very long lecture. You have had it all years and more in store for you in coming years. So I'll try to be brief. Lucky for you, I have a cold. And lucky for you also, Lord Owen has forgotten his medicine, so he could not cure me. Lord Owen told me that he prefers to be called Dr. Owen. However, due to my brief spell myself at the Ministry of Health, my relationships with physicians have not been all that could be desired. So I'll stick to Lord Owen. You are a young group of people, and we tried to bring you the youngest politician in the Western world. Probably he was the youngest member of parliament, the youngest minister of state, and definitely he was the youngest foreign minister. Is that right, Lord Owen? Since he is almost exactly my age, I would say that he is still a very young man, and his career is still ahead of him. But we are not talking here about official jobs. We are talking here about courage and conviction, because if education means anything, it means in the final analysis having faith, courage, and hope, and fighting for what you believe in. And this is why the board decided to get each year a great man who fought for his convictions to speak to the graduating class. And great men are invariably controversial. I don't think you can be great and self-effacing or great and unheard of. And in all the jobs Lord Owen took, he fought for what he believed in, and of course, sometimes he fought alone. He was a member of the Labour Party, then he decided to have another party, and at one point he was a one-man party, but he still fought on. And now, in mid-career, he accepted this most fantastic and colossal challenge of trying to mediate and introduce peace in a very troubled land. All of you in this room, all of us all over the Muslim world, probably all of us over this planet, feel very strongly and moved very deeply by the tragedy of what goes on former Yugoslavia. And the job that Lord Owen has accepted is probably the most difficult and the most thankless job that one could think of. Yet he accepted the challenge, and he still is fighting on. And when a settlement is reached, and I say when, I don't say if, when a settlement is reached, I think his efforts will be remembered with great admiration, even by those who are now vocal critics of what he is doing. Now I think you young girls and boys need role models, need examples in your coming years, because you will have many fights of all sorts. And I think the easiest way for you is to shun a fight, but you should never do that. And the easiest thing for you is to give up, but you should never do that. And I think a test of greatness is to stick to hope when all is desperate, and to carry on when everybody advises retreat. And I think in our guest speaker tonight, we have a role model of this caliber, a man who has always fought for what he believed in, and who was very kind to come this evening here to cut these few hours from his very busy and, of course, rather dangerous tour of duty to speak to you and to share his thoughts about various things, among which his present assignment in former Yugoslavia. Let me congratulate you on your graduation, wish you greater achievement, and let me now, on your behalf, thank and welcome our guest speaker, Lord Owen.
Your Excellencies, High Mistress, graduates, I think it's a rather nice tradition. It's a tradition that is not done in this country very often, to mark your leaving of school in this way. My wife is American, and of course it is an American tradition too, that when you leave school you are graduates and you have the opportunity to mark that occasion. I was introduced, I must say, in a very flattering way when you said that mid-career. I consider my political career is over, and I am now moving into the quiet period of retirement. But I admit that I'm certainly not doing that at the very moment. I have 3 children, and 2 of them are in their final year at university, and one is, my youngest daughter, is still at school. I think that you have every right to be proud of this school, proud of your involvement in its development, because some of you must have come right at the very start of that development, and proud of the Islamic faith and culture which you are part. And I must say, I think it is a great tribute to this school that what started with King Fahad's initiative has turned now to a situation where so many other countries are represented here in this school. Now, the High Mistress mentioned a very remarkable speech by the Prince of Wales. He receives many brickbats, but he is a thoughtful person. And though that speech was given a lot of publicity for what he said, and in my view rightly, about the Marsh Arabs, he also said something else, which I don't think any of us should forget. He pointed out that first in Spain and then in the Balkans, the Muslim Islam had really been part of Europe for much longer than many people recognized, and had contributed so much towards the civilization, which he went on to say we all too often think of wrongly as entirely Western. And he said this: Islam is part of our past and our present in all fields of human endeavor. It has helped to create modern Europe. It is part of our own inheritance, not a thing apart. That is a fact. I speak as a Welshman, but anyone in the United Kingdom who looks at our country today and sees our role within the European community must start to recognize, more than we have done in the past, how varied is that European culture, how deep is that European culture, and the part that Islam has played in that culture. It's very important that you treasure that and prove it, because it's not a widely accepted piece of knowledge. And I'm glad to see the Prince of Wales giving it such a high profile and such recognition. Now, it is true that I really think of myself still as a doctor, although I only practiced for 8 years. But in the field of medicine too, the role of Islamic figures is very considerable. Avicenna wrote one of the great textbooks of medicine. He wrote it in the 11th century. It was on right through until the pre-Reformation days, the standard textbook in all universities throughout Europe that taught medicine. And there are many other people who have contributed to medical history, medical science, and medical thought, and are still doing so. Medicine, in many ways, was one of the first trans-European disciplines. And I think that it is very important. Now, the Prince of Wales talked about the Balkans. I have this most onerous task of dealing with this war in Bosnia-Herzegovina in particular, and the apparent inability of the Serb and Croat leaders to accept living together in a society with Muslims. This is a tragedy of a very deep proportion, because Bosnia-Herzegovina for centuries has been a part of Europe, not a country in the fullest sense, in the sense that of a pure nation. It never was that, but it was always a distinct part, whether it was the Ottoman Empire, whether it was part of the Austrian Habsburg Empire, or whether it was part as a republic of Yugoslavia. The Muslims were in fact recognized by Tito as a nation, although they didn't have a country. They were, of course, the largest group within Bosnia-Herzegovina, some 44%. But they have played a very major role and have lived alongside Serbs and Croats and Jews and many other different groups for many centuries. I remember when, as a medical student, I first visited Yugoslavia. It was in 1958. And I walked over the bridge at Mostar and went and saw the place where the Archduke was shot in the streets of Sarajevo. And I never thought that I would ever see that peaceful country as it appeared, torn and riven in the way that it is now. And one of the elements in it is undoubtedly a sort of strange combination of racism and religious division. I think that what we have unfortunately allowed to happen is the nationalism has returned on the land of Europe. Many of us hope that the raw, vicious form of nationalism that we saw in the late 30s and early 40s wouldn't come back to haunt us again. But it is back with a vengeance here in the former Yugoslavia. In a sense, to understand what's happening, you do have to go back into the history, and you have to sadly remember the genocide of the Serbs that took place in the early 1940s. And one of the troubles is that the Tito's Yugoslavia never really accepted that there had been a civil war during the Second World War. It was easier to talk about the myth of the partisans and the fighters. These were a very important part of the struggle for overcoming Hitler and Mussolini's forces. But there was also an internal civil war. And people refused to face this and bottled it up. And under the authoritarianism of communism, there was never real recognition of the wrongs that were done by the predominantly Croat Ustashi to the Serbian people. And that has unfortunately, because it was bottled up with very little form of genuine reconciliation or atonement, allowed some of these very nasty and naked forces to come back and haunt again a generation that has no real memory or relics of the Second World War. People will argue, and many of you may have agonized yourselves, your parents may well have felt that more ought to have been done. it's very difficult to know what could have been done. I wasn't even involved in the early stages of the war, so I have no axe to grind. I only came involved in this situation when the Bosnian Serbs had taken 65% of Bosnia-Herzegovina, and most of the most savage ethnic cleansing had already taken place. But let me deal directly with one issue, which may have troubled you, and that is this arms embargo. Firstly, the United Nations has put arms embargo, blanket arms embargo, on regions in the Middle East, in other areas, as a way of trying to damp down a war before. And they've done it on member states of the United Nations. So it's not a new technique, it's a blunt technique, but it's not new. It was applied in this case initially because of the Serb-Croat war. And the haunting fear really was that we would reproduce in 1991 the divisions which had led to the war involving Yugoslavia in 1941. And that you would have different parts, different sides in the Security Council supplying different sides in the war. The Russians were the traditional friend of the Serbs and traditional arms suppliers. The Germans, the Hungarians, the Austrians were the traditional supporters of the Slovenians and the Croatians. And the one thing people could agree on was, let nobody have any arms. Let's have an arms embargo across the whole of the former Yugoslavia. Now, that was much criticized at the time, people forget. And particularly it was criticized in Germany and Austria because the Croats were inferior in weapons to the Serbs, and they were suffering very greatly. We hear a lot of the siege of Sarajevo. People have forgotten the devastation of Vukovar, which was utterly flattened, where for nearly 3 months it was shelled by Serbian forces. Well, rightly or wrongly, the embargo was kept on during that time, and the people who were suffering then were Catholic Croats. I only say this because I think there are many people, and conscientious and decent people, who are worried, and not just Muslims by any means, who are worried that we are discriminating against the Bosnian Muslims because they are Muslim. The arms embargo, of course, started to apply when the war in Bosnia-Herzegovina developed in April 1992. Now, people say that having recognized Bosnia-Herzegovina, shouldn't you then, since they were undoubtedly inferior, shouldn't we have lifted the arms embargo and let them fight for their country? And isn't that a basic right, self-determination, the right to fight? Self-determination actually is a qualified right in many respects, but there are many people who feel that the right to fight for your existence, to defend your home, to defend your family, is a very basic right. Of course, they could fight, but they were, in the early months particularly, were fighting with inferior weapons. Well, the world took the view that it was going to be very difficult to lift the arms embargo selectively. I don't think myself the Russian Federation could have accepted a selective arms embargo just for the Bosnian Muslims. Even if they had lifted it, since it was landlocked, the Croats, who initially let arms through, were starting to restrict arms and now wouldn't let anything through. And the Serbs, between them, encircle the whole of Bosnia-Herzegovina, and no arms could have got through, and they would have stopped it. But a much more fundamental thing is at stake here, which is, if you open up to the sophisticated modern weaponry, open season, as you see in the savagery of the fighting around Nagorno-Karabakh, you have a much more different level of violence. Now, I don't want to go any further into this question. It's a deep question. It's perfectly understandable that people will hold different views, and probably very deeply held views in this room, and certainly beyond it. But the one charge I certainly would rebut: it may be the wrong decision to have the arms embargo and to keep it. It may prove to be wrong, but it was not taken. In the first place, it didn't even apply to the Bosnian Muslims because they were not at war. It was not taken for religious reasons, and it was not maintained for religious reasons. And I would strongly hold that. I think it's important, because you're living in a country whose government has adopted that line. I'm not a member of the government. I'm a member of no party these days. I have no particular reason why I should come to the conclusion that I've come to, but I come to it conscientiously, maybe wrongly. And of course that is one of the things that you are going to find now increasingly as you develop into that most fascinating, I think, period. Certainly I look back on it, and I think most of us look back on the years between school and marriage, perhaps, as the most interesting time of one's life, because you have time, you are not diverted as a husband to try and keep the family income going, or as a wife to both keep the family together and to have children. But there's a sort of time, you have time. Whatever you do, whether you go on to university or you start apprenticeships or you start training, whatever you're doing, you will find for 5 years or more that you will have had more time. You may use it in lots of different ways, but you will probably never again have a period where you have as much time to think, to do what you like, to take interests. And if I have to offer you any advice, I would say this: do not be pressurized by friends, parents, or anyone to take decisions about your life before you're ready to take them. The English educational system has one of its greatest deficits, that it specializes too young, and it forces people into specialization and into career patterns at much too young an age. If you feel that you want to have more time, don't be worried about this, whatever you're doing, and stay, if you like, more open-minded and more loose. And the other thing is, as your childhood goes behind you and you start to think, have time to think, my advice to you is don't lose one thing, which is wonder. I think the characteristic of a child is it wonders. It's a beautiful word, actually, wonder. It's so much more than just one word. It's that sense of wanting to know and not knowing, that sense of, there is no other words really to describe it, the excitement of new knowledge, new sights, new visions, new smells, new everything. And the sense of wonder, particularly of nature, but it's wonder of music, it's wonder of books, it's wonder of culture, it's wonder of religion. Don't lose that. We live in a very materialistic world. Your religion, in many senses, holds you back sometimes from the materialism of the world, which is one of its great strengths. But don't lose that sense of wonder, and don't lose the opportunities that you have in this period of your life to think, to read, to take up interests, to develop a hinterland, and often a hinterland of your own. And you will need it later in life. How often most of us look back at the time, that was the time when you were really into music and you learnt an instrument and you played, and how many people loved poetry when they were 20, 21, 22 and then never opened a poetry book, and then at the age of 50 they suddenly discover it. Or you read more books, you do more things. These are all widening your mind and your outlook and your attitudes. It's a very precious time. You don't waste it. You go to discos, or you have fun, or you enjoy life, making friends. It's again a period when you probably meet more friends, have a wider and a more diverse life than at any other time. On top of that, some of you may even be taking exams, which is, of course, also a problem. I think you are to be envied as you step forward into that period of your life, and I think very few of us who've been through it don't have a certain sense of wistfulness as we look back on our years. Anyhow, I wish you all the best in that life that you live, and I hope that you will contribute as citizens either in this country or in any other country. And if you are living in Europe as Europeans, increasingly how I think we must see our lives together, diverse Europe, multicultural Europe, multi-religious Europe, a Europe of many different aspirations, a Europe, I believe, which will still be, for many, many decades to come, and I hope always, a mixture of proud and independent nations. I've never, although being a long committed European, believed that we will all be absorbed into one single federalist nation. It seems to me to be completely unreal. But I do look to seeing a greater degree of European unity, and that Europe must be an inclusive Europe. And it certainly is a Europe that is not just based on the Judeo-Christian tradition. It is a Europe which has had and will always have a proud place for the contribution of Islam. Thank you.
I now invite Mrs. Healy and Mr. Burtonshaw to assist with the presentation of the certificates and diplomas.
Lord Owen, Your Excellency, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, students. We commence with the girls graduating having completed GCSE examinations. Alia Altak. Dina Al-Qassar. Farida Makasan. Hanan Balola. Lena Hamid. Isam Pigstock. Nilofer Wishitung. Rana Kudsi. Sally Al-Kashif. Shireen Mahmood. Shireen Metwali. Abir Abu Shala. Hodden Elmi. Hadia Malik. Habiba Sedki. Dina Hilmi. Amal Majoub. Barra Baker. Susan Al-Jabouri. Shabnam Mohammed. Rabab Al-Yamani. Rania Kasim. Madawi Al-Saud. And Imam Majoub. The girls graduating to higher education. Basma Al-Shayal. Basma is Egyptian by birth, but when she entered the academy in 1988, she had been educated in Canada, Saudi Arabia, and Scotland. She had succeeded in acquiring a Scottish accent in the meantime. Basma did well lower down the school and achieved a good set of GCSE results. She was always helpful and responsible, particularly in dealing with the younger pupils. While she was here, she helped with some classroom teaching in English and Arabic. Basma is also interested in debate and discussion, particularly of religious and philosophical ideas. She has 3 A-level passes, 2 at grade A, and is now studying Arabic and Islamic Studies at the School of African and Oriental Studies of London University. Gina Laban. Gina came to the academy in the 6th form with very limited English. She had lived in the Lebanon most of her life and had been educated in Arabic and French. In view of this, Gina did very well to pass A-level mathematics and A-level Arabic in 1 year. She is now studying mathematics at North London University. Lena Ibrahim. Lena is Iraqi by birth, but she had travelled widely before entering the academy in 1989. She was born in Japan and been educated for some time in the United States. Lena's main interest was always in art, and she took this as her main A-level subject. She had retained an interest in Japan from early years and developed her critical studies project around Japanese prints. She is now studying for an honours degree in environmental design at Brunel University. Nadia Al-Shadia. Nadia was born in this country of Iraqi parents and came to the academy in 1986, the same year as myself. She has an excellent record of work and contribution to the life of the school. She will be particularly remembered for her artwork, for which she has won several awards while she was with us. Indeed, at one time, Nadia thought she might take up art as her career. However, as she got further into her A-level subjects, she decided to continue further with mathematics. She now has 3 A-levels and is studying mathematics and computer studies at King's College, London University. Rania Taha. Rania was born in Egypt and has lived here since she was 2 and joined the academy in 1986, again the same time as myself. Rania worked hard and contributed to the life of the girls at the school, particularly in her artwork and stories and poems for the magazine. She has always been keen on tennis and athletics. She thoroughly deserves her 3 A-levels, 1 at grade A and her place at Brunel University, where she is reading for an honours degree in politics and modern history. Lena Khalil. Lena is Iraqi by birth, and when she came to the academy aged 12, had been educated largely in Saudi Arabia. She very quickly adopted to the English side of her education here and achieved surprisingly good GCSE results and outstanding A-level results with 4 grade A's in Arabic, mathematics, further mathematics and physics. However, Lena is not simply an academic scientist. Her interests include art, literature and politics. While here, she took the opportunity to visit the theatre. She read some of the A-level English texts purely for interest, and she took GCSE Art Mature for the same reasons. Although she had never done any sport before coming here, she played netball and rounders for the school. Lena has a place at the University of Cambridge. She is now at Newnham College, where she is studying for an honours degree in engineering. Has also been voted the Student of the Year, and she also receives a special award from the custodian of the 2 holy places, King Fahad bin Abdul Aziz, and she receives a special gold watch.
Your Excellencies, Lord Owen, we now come to the graduating class from the boys' upper school. And as with the girls' upper school, we begin with the boys who've just passed their GCSE subjects and are moving on to the next phase of their education. And we begin with Abdul Latif Zabadni. Belal Albana. Ihab El Kafas. Fadl Al Ahmed. Fadi Abdeen. Imad Sharif. Syed Noen Ali. Rami Ali. Mohammed Kazmani. Mohammed Awada. Ihsan Mahdi. Hassan Saeed. Wada Abu Sin. Talal Wasfi. And Tariq Arab. We now come to those graduates who have completed the full-time education at the boys' upper school and have gone on to further education. And first of all, we have Ahmed El Osta. Ahmed joined the academy in September 1990, direct from Lebanon, having previously been educated in the American Community School there. In spite of being educated mainly in Arabic and French, he developed a great talent for creative writing. He also represented the school in volleyball basketball and is now reading biology at Queen Mary and Westfield College. Essam Al-Mahdi. Essam, originally from the Sudan, joined the academy in 1987. He's been an active voluntary worker in the Islamic Cultural Centre and also at the West Middlesex Hospital. In 1992, he was awarded the Saudi British Society Cup for his efforts in bringing the Saudi and British Society together. And Essam is now reading actuarial science at the London School of Economics. Haida Al-Wakil. Originally from Iraq, Haida joined the academy in 1986. Haida's main strengths have been in the art and architecture side, and he received the art prize several times throughout his career at the school. However, he is now reading computing at the University of Greenwich. Kais Al-Khujja. Originally from Libya, Kais joined the academy in 1985 when it first opened. Kais was active in the soccer team and is now studying business and finance at South Bank University. Mohammed Elmi. Mohammed, originally from the Sudan, joined the academy in 1985. He was very active in the debating society and helping with the chess club, and in fact ran that for the junior pupils for a long time. He is now reading economics at the School of African and Oriental Studies. Mohaned Majoub. Mohaned joined the academy in 1988 and was originally from the Sudan. Again, he was an active member of the chess and science clubs and had a surprising talent for table tennis. He is now studying electronic engineering at the University of Hatfield. Nadim Tanir. Nadim joined the academy in 1989 direct from the Lebanon. In spite of being educated in Arabic and French, he made great strides with his English and settled into the work of an English school very satisfactorily. He represented the school at soccer, volleyball, basketball. He is now studying business management at the University of Westminster. Abdullah Zabadni. Abdullah joined the academy in the sixth form in 1991, having taken his international GCSEs in Jordan. Abdullah had a very mixed education in very many countries. Originally from Syria, Abdullah was certainly very active on the sporting side, captaining soccer at one stage as well as playing basketball and volleyball. He was awarded the Under-18 Sportsman of the Year in 1992 and is currently reading mechanical engineering at Surrey University. Mohammed Shaban. Originally from Libya, Mohammed joined the academy in 1988. Mohammed has always been very active on the sports field and represented the academy at soccer, basketball and volleyball, both in matches here and on the continent. He has received the Under-14 and Under-18 Sportsman of the Year award during his time at the academy, and is now reading law at the School of African and Oriental Studies. He has been selected as Student of the Year for the Boys Upper School and is to be presented with a very special award from the custodian of the two holy places, King Fahad bin Abdulaziz. That concludes the awards of the certificates.
I now invite an Academy graduate, Lina Kahil, to give a vote of thanks.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لورد أوين، معالي الدكتور غازي القصيبي سفير المملكة العربية السعودية ورئيس مجلس أمناء الأكاديمية، سعادة عميدة الأكاديمية الدكتورة ابتسام البسام، أيها السيدات والسادة الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. ما أشبه الليلة بالبارحة، فبالأمس القريب كان هناك احتفال آخر صغير في منزلنا يذكرني باحتفال هذا اليوم، وإن كان أكثر تواضعا. لقد كان احتفال أسرتي بقبولي في أكاديمية الملك فهد تلميذة في الصف الثالث المتوسط. تلك الأكاديمية التي يتزاحم الآلاف على أبوابها من أولئك الذين يبحثون لأولادهم وبناتهم عن قلعة أمينة تمنحهم دفء الإيمان والإسلام في شتاء أوروبا القاسي، وترضعهم لبن العربية لغة دينهم التي يعتز بها ويقدسها ربع سكان العالم. لم أكن أتصور أن السنوات ستمر سراعا هكذا لأجد نفسي أتخرج من الأكاديمية التي حملت بي طيلة هذه السنوات لتدفع بي إلى الحياة الجديدة التي أحياها الآن طالبة في كلية نيونم بجامعة كامبريدج. إنني لم أبالغ وأنا أصف مدرستي العزيزة بالأم الثانية، وكيف ورعاية معلماتي ومديرتي لي كانت لا تقل عن رعاية أي أم لأولادها، وكيف والاهتمام المميز الذي أحاطتنا به سعادة الدكتورة ابتسام البسام، والحنان الذي رصدت لنا به كل عنايتها وحبها لم يكد يفارقنا لحظة واحدة. كيف والرعاية الأبوية الكريمة التي أضافها علينا السفير دكتور غازي القصيبي، ومن قبله معالي السفير ناصر منقور، كانت لا تقل عن حبي ورعايتي وحب آبائنا لنا. كيف والعين الساهرة الكبيرة هناك في الأرض المقدسة ترعى حرميها الشريفين في الوقت الذي ترعى به هذا المعهد العربي الإسلامي الكبير الذي أنشأته ورعته وسهرت عليه العناية الملكية لخادم الحرمين الشريفين الملك فهد بن عبد العزيز. إن من البر لأي طالب وطالبة ممن درسوا في هذه الأكاديمية أن يحتفظ بمثل هذا العرفان لكل أولئك الذين صنعونا من جديد ووضعونا بفضل الله تعالى حيث نحن الآن لنكون حيث يظنون ونصل لأمالنا ونحقق لأمتنا ما تتمنى ويتمنون. Lord Owen, Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I feel both honored and privileged to be speaking to you today as a graduate of the King Fahad Academy. It surprised me that when I think that 5 years have passed since I came to this country and entered the academy. As a newcomer with little knowledge of English, the school has been of great help to me, as it is for many of us, in keeping my own language and culture alive, yet meeting the demands of the society in which I am living now. The success of the academy can be judged not only by its examination results, but by the growing number of students wanting to come here. For all this, we must thank first of all His Majesty King Fahad of Saudi Arabia, who generously made it possible. Thanks are also due to His Excellency the Ambassador for his interest and support, and to Dr. Ibtisam al-Bassam for her kindness and concern, and to our head teachers and teachers for all their hard work. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I now call upon Ali Al-Janadi of the King Fahad Academy Graduates Association.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. معالي سفير المملكة العربية السعودية ورئيس مجلس الأمناء الدكتور غازي القصيبي، سعادة الدكتورة ابتسام البسام عميدة الأكاديمية، أيها السيدات والسادة، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يشرفني أن أعود لأقف ثانية في هذا المكان بعد تركي الأكاديمية لأهنئ نيابة عن رابطة خريجي أكاديمية الملك فهد زميلاتي وزملائي المتخرجين من الأكاديمية هذا العام. إن النتائج التي أحرزها بعضهم تدعو حقا إلى الزهو والفخر، فلولا مثابرتهم وجدهم ما نالوا وحققوا الأمل الذي سعوا من أجله. ولعل هذا النجاح يكون حافزا لجميع الطلبة في الأكاديمية كي يتسلح كل منهم بالعلم. كما أشرك في هذه التهنئة أولياء الأمور الذين سهروا على راحة أولادهم وساندوا الأكاديمية من أجل تحقيق هذا النجاح. ولا ننسى فضل الأساتذة والمعلمين والإداريين والعاملين فيها بما قدموه من عمل متواصل ليحققوا جزءا كبيرا من هذا النجاح. فاسمحوا لي أن أبارك خطاهم ليتابعوا الوصول إلى الهدف الذي رسمته الأكاديمية منذ البداية. كما أود أن أهنئ باسم رابطة الخريجين وباسم الطلاب المتخرجين أول خريج للأكاديمية الأخ مازن الطيب الذي تخرج هذه السنة مهندسا من كلية كوين ماري بجامعة لندن. واسمحوا لي باسمكم جميعا أن أرفع عميق شكرنا وخالص دعائنا لمؤسس هذا الصرح العلمي والذي سيبقى اسمه خالدا مع اسم الأكاديمية، خادم الحرمين الشريفين الملك فهد بن عبد العزيز حفظه الله. وكذلك لمعالي سفير المملكة العربية السعودية ورئيس مجلس الأمناء الدكتور غازي القصيبي لاهتمامه ورعايته للأكاديمية. كما أخص بالشكر معالي الشيخ ناصر المنقور الذي أعطى للأكاديمية الكثير من وقته وجهده منذ المراحل الأولى لتأسيسها. وفي الختام وبالنيابة عن جميع الطلبة والخريجين نؤكد عميق شكرنا وتهنئاتنا لعميدة الأكاديمية الدكتورة ابتسام البسام، والذي كان لها دور كبير في تحقيق هذا النجاح، مع دعائنا لها بالحفظ والخير مدى الحياة. والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا ان هدانا الله. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Lord Owen, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and pleasure to offer warm congratulations on behalf of the Graduate Association of the King Fahad Academy. I am sure that the time the students have spent in this excellent educational environment will have prepared them well for their future career. On this unique occasion, the Association would like to express our sincere gratitude to the custodian of the two holy places, King Fahad bin Abdul Aziz, for giving us the opportunity to study in the special atmosphere of our cultural heritage. We appreciate this opportunity very much, and we would also wish to thank His Excellency the Ambassador, Dr. Ghazi Al-Qusaybi, Chairman of the Council of Management, for the interest he has taken in the Academy since his arrival in the United Kingdom. Finally, we offer our sincere thanks to all the teachers whose efforts produced the results we are celebrating today. Thank you all.
On behalf of the King Fahad Academy, I would like to present this painting. This is her own work, The True Little Hope.
Your Excellencies, Lord Owen, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, following the playing of the national anthems, it is requested that you remain in your place while the platform party and their Excellencies, the ambassadors and high commissioners of other countries, followed by our graduates, retire. A reception will follow, to which you are cordially invited. Thank you.
The button is coming now. Yes, the button is coming too. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not dividing up this there. Give us a big slide for the Muslim state.
لا يضيع ما صاروا يهتمون.
سلم سلم.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, thank you very much indeed.
Let's say after.
Thank you.
That's it. Okay. Madame, cigarette? تفضلي. بومبس. شكرا الحقيقة كان حفل موفق وإن شاء الله السنة الجاية يكون أحسن كمان وفكرونا في الجست سبيكر من الحين.
بدون شامل.
ها؟
بدون شامل.
بتسلط على العيله المادة ما تاخدش. زعلت نبغى مراتي. رايك توصل لنا عندنا.
يا ريت والله خلاص. Sorry.